In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Photopea to change the colour of some flowers in a photograph. Photopea is a free photo editing app and it's found at photopea.com. It's very similar to Photoshop, so I'd really strongly recommend trying it if you haven't yet. I'm going to start by opening my image. It's actually a photograph by one of my students and it's going to be in my downloads. So I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm going to go to my downloads and here is the flower image and I'm going to open it like that. As you can see, she's got some beautiful white flowers here and you can see here on the layers tab we've got this single layer. We're going to go down to the bottom of the layers tab and we're going to create a new layer, and the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to change this to a linear burn layer. That's going to make it a little bit see-through so that when we add some colour, it's going to be like a piece of cellophane. You're still going to be able to see the tones and the details through this coloured layer. So I'm going to select the colour that I'd like. You find this in the colours tab here. I'm just going to double click on that and I'm going to use the slider to select a nice pink colour, something nice and vibrant. And then I'm going to use the brush tool, which you find at the side, or you can just click the letter B and it will appear for you. And I'm going to start to draw in any detail that I see. Now, if you find that it's a little bit too far away, you can press Control and plus to zoom in, or Control and minus to zoom out. You can also use the square brackets to make your brush size bigger and or smaller, so you can sort of use either one to make it bigger or smaller. And I'm just going to fill in this area with some colour. As you can see, the tone is still there. You can see some details appearing through this sort of see-through layer. Now, I'm basing this on a stargazer lily, so they have a white center point, and I'm not being too fussy about whether I stay in the lines or not. I can go out of the lines if I want to. I'll show you how to edit those bits out in a little bit. I'm being quite rough with it. Just fill in all of the flower and you'll see I'll explain the next step when we get there. I'm thinking about the shape of the petals as well and how they're curving in. Okay, so now we've got something that looks like that, which I think you'll agree looks like a total mess at this point. So I'm going to use the eraser tool and then I'm going to soften some of the edges as well. So let's neaten up the main edges first. So you can go to the eraser tool at the side here, or you can press the E button if you're feeling a bit more confident with your shortcuts on the keyboard. And I'm going to start to neaten up this edge as best I can. And I can change the size of the brush anytime I like using the square brackets tool. And you can see, oh, I've gone a little bit too far in, so I can press the B letter and here we go. I can use the brush tool, and then if I press the E, then I get the eraser tool back and I can continue to edit out any bits that I'm not keen on. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. However, this bit in the center looks completely unnatural. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eraser tool again. So you can use it at the side or you can just press the E button. And then I'm going to go up to my brush options and I'm going to pick a nice soft brush or a nice soft eraser, and I'm going to go back into those edges to soften them. To do this, I'm going to make sure that my brush tool is quite big, the eraser tool is quite big, and I'm just going to work into those edges. Now, you don't want to do things too perfectly because nothing in nature is absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to rub these out quite roughly. You can even, if you want, change the opacity. So if you lower the opacity, it means that it won't rub out everything at once. So you can do one stroke and it won't all vanish. You need to do 2 strokes to get rid of anything fully. Just sort of going around in little circles here, however you think looks right. Often helps to have an image of the flower that you're responding to if you're sort of changing the colours completely. I'm going to put this back to 100% opacity because I'm not happy with those edges. I want them to be completely softened and define that edge a bit. So that's the beauty of this. You can work back into things. You can click undo. You can kind of paint with this. Okay, so you can see already this layer, if I was to get rid of it, you can see there's a massive difference. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue working into this with the lilies in the background, and then I'll show you how to do the peonies. Like I say, it's always handy to have a picture of a real flower in front of you, but if you don't, try and think of the shapes and the volumes that are in front of you as well, and try and work it out. Okay, I'm going to go back in with the eraser tool, and I'm going to start to erase any information that I don't want. I'm going to use the harder brush again. If you feel like you've gone wrong, then you can press Control, Alt and Z a few times and you can undo the past few marks that you've done. So I didn't like what I did there, so I did that a few times. Control, Alt and Z. I'm just gonna, don't know, not massively keen on that bit, but I mean I've just added a little bit of colour to it, so that makes some difference. Okay, so now you can see the difference between the stargazer lilies with the colour and without the colour. So you can see there's a definite difference there, and I think it looks fairly realistic. You can, if you like, you can change the opacity of the actual layer as well. So if you go up to the opacity tab here, you can use this slider to change things a little bit. So, if you feel that it's not quite right, then you can adjust those. I think if I put it a little bit lower at maybe like 88%, but you use your judgment and see what you think looks best. Okay, for the peonies, they're going to be a different colour. So you don't have to, but I'm going to create a new layer for them as well. And I think these would be nice as a very light pink colour. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to change it to a sort of more of a reddy pink, just so we've got a bit more variation on there. Don't want them to look too samey. And again, I'm going to go to this and I'm going to select linear burn to make it a see-through layer. I'm going to get my brush tool and I'm going to start to paint in that detail. Another thing that's good about creating a different layer from this is I can do anything that I want to sort of this layer and it won't damage any of the lilies, so I can just be kind of as rough and as messy as I like with this, and then I can go back into it and edit it in a few minutes time. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in with the eraser tool and I'm going to start to sharpen up those edges and get rid of any bits that I don't want. So for example here you can see I'm rubbing out this bit, but the pink that I laid down on the stargazer lily layer is still there, so it's not damaging that layer at all. I'm going to use a hard brush so I can get that edge nice and sharp. You can just work back into this as many times as you like until you sort of get to something that you feel quite happy with. Really helps to know those keyboard shortcuts though, so if you can learn them, I would definitely recommend doing that. It's worth the time, and it becomes second nature much faster than you'd realise as well. To change the tools and to change the size of the brush tools and things like that. And if you noticed anything, I've just noticed that I'm not particularly happy with that edge at the top. I'm just going to make that ever so slightly neater. You just need to make sure that you've selected the right layer. So now if I was to try and add anything to or remove anything from this area, you can see I'm on a different layer, so it can't be edited. Okay, so let's see how it looks on its own. So you can see you've got your flower layer for the peonies, and you've got the lily layer as well. So if I took all of that away, you can see there's the before and there's the after. You could make these any colour you liked as well. So say if I wanted to make these peonies blue, I could click on this layer and I could go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and I could have a play with the colours as well. So maybe I might want some nice, lovely yellow flowers. And maybe I want them to be much more saturated so I can play with that, or maybe I want them to be much lighter, or even, I mean, you probably don't want to make them darker, but you can play with the sliders there as well, so you can get any sort of effects that you like. Quite like them as yellow, actually. I might leave them as yellow. They don't even have to be flowers that you can find in real life now, because you can be experimental. So I am going to make these blue, but then I'll probably put them back to pink again. Just want to see. Oh, whoa. So yeah, there you go. You could make some blue ones, and say if that was too strong, you could go to your opacity and you could play with that and make it a little bit more believable in nature. But I think I liked the pink, so I'm going to go to Edit, Undo, Edit, Step Back, and I'm just going to keep stepping back until I get to the pink. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to save by clicking on File, Export as JPEG, and I'm going to save that to my computer. I hope that was useful to you. Thanks very much for watching.